So this is essentially just a guideline around CVs, how to write a CV. Everybody has very different views on how they should write a CV. So don't take this as golden, but it's a couple of hints and tips that I've picked up over my years of recruitment. So a couple of things to include in your CV. What does a good CV look like? Some do's and don'ts, and we can have a quick Q&A at the end. There's some fun TikToks throughout, so feel free to enjoy those. So industry research states that on average, recruiters spend 6 to 8 seconds looking at your CV before they decide whether they're going to progress your application or not. And to be honest, that is probably around about true. Obviously, if they see, they see whether they see something that they're interested in, they'll delve into a little bit longer. But just bear this in mind when you're writing your CV. Make sure that things are popping out at the beginning so that they don't have to really look for them. And it means that they will then spend longer looking at your CV because they've seen something that they're interested in and think that might be good for the role. So CVs obviously look different in different industries. Don't feel like you need to do the bulk standard kind of like Arial 12 or Arial 10 or whatever it's supposed to be back in the day. If you're a graphic designer, completely feel free to be creative with it. We've had, I look after the user operations teams at TikTok. So some guys that will work with creators on a daily basis. So I've had quite a few CVs that have been TikToks, which is quite fun. Obviously alongside a more traditional CV, but it's definitely something that gets people's attention. And you can find a creative way to explain why you may be good for the role with a TikTok, for example. So cover letters, I thought I'd cover this because it's a bit of a controversial topic of whether people should do them or not. And there's a statistic here that 26% of recruiters think it's an important addition to an application. It completely depends on the business, completely depends on the recruiter of who's actually, or the person that's reviewing the application. If the business asks for it, of course, feel free to put it in there. I personally will always read a CV before I read a cover letter because the CV has got what I need to know on it. And obviously going back to that 6 to 8 seconds, it can be not necessarily the first priority to look at. And in terms of the business and the recruiter, if you think that there is a topic in your CV that, say you've got a big gap, or say you've got something that isn't necessarily explainable within your CV, then that's when it could be a good idea to add a cover letter. So I've just got a couple of example CVs. This is one for a more junior person, and this is not a real CV. This is just a template. So you can see here, just some standard formatting, languages, always great to have on there. Contact information, something that may seem obvious, but actually people forget quite a lot of the time. And some basic key achievements and basic information about what they do. This one's a little bit more senior or a little bit more experienced. And there you can see it's broken down into key achievements, main responsibilities. I would say education, if you've got more than 1 or 2 years experience, keep that at the end. Obviously, if you're a graduate, then have it at the beginning. That's your most recent experience. So have that there. I've just seen a question on the Q&A. saying, should we take out small part retail jobs? Are they relevant? Take up space on the CV? So I'll talk slowly. So I would say it depends on how much experience you've got. If you've got lots of experience that's very relevant to the area and the job that you're applying for, then there's no need to have them in there. If you're working in fashion, for example, and you worked in a fashion store, then it could be relevant if you've got less experience. So I think judge it on the job that you're going for and how much experience you've got. If you're a graduate and there's nothing else on your CV, then it can be relevant, and it can be something that, if it's relevant to the industry as well, that can spark questions in the interview. Do you guys want to take the graduate question?
I can see. So it's, hey, so I'm a 2020 graduate and I've been involved in some side projects, but I feel like I don't have any real experience to apply for some of the roles at TikTok. Any advice on how to kind of make these experiences stand out? I guess I'll start. I feel like for graduate roles and entry roles, I don't think you need to really kind of be worried about not having real life work experience. They kind of just want to see the transferable skills from anything that you have done. So those side projects are really kind of important to kind of show any transferable skills you've done, how you was involved with the side projects, kind of what was your involvement, how did you impact it in a certain type of way, and find any way to relate it to the job role in itself. I think most importantly, when it's entry-level roles, your enthusiasm and your passion for like what you're going into will shine out the most as well. So that's my take on it. What about you, Annabeth or Roberta? Anything else to add?
You're on mute, Annabeth.
I was going to say, yeah, I agree with what Mariah said. Definitely seeing kind of like, even just going to like events within your industry can be a good way and give you like a speaking point in your application and your interview. So I think like really kind of submerging yourself in the industry that you're trying to get to, and using LinkedIn as a powerful tool to do that can be really helpful. It's something that helped me in my process. So yeah, you don't need to have like a real life experience in the role to apply. So just go for it, really. Just go for it and just bring your best self and bring in, all the kind of transferable skills that you've gained throughout into your application. And yeah, that should be enough to shine through, really.
There's a question about like one-page CVs. I would say again, if you've got less experience, try to keep it to one page. If you've got, I'd say, more than 4 to 5 years experience, 2 pages is fine. It doesn't really matter. But the main thing is to get whoever's reviewing your CV to look at it and catch their attention. I'm not sure if anyone actually saw the presentation that I did a minute ago. I'm not sure if I was just doing it to myself. But usually recruiters will look at someone's CV to about 6 to 8 seconds. So it's not that long to catch someone's attention and actually make them think, okay, this person could be good for this job. I'll continue reviewing. Any advice for making a tech CV? Coming from Nontech, an employee said earlier, Nontech and tech CVs are very different. I wouldn't necessarily say there's huge amounts of difference between the two. I'd say you can be a bit more creative when it comes to tech CVs, but there's a huge difference between a software engineer's CV and a graphic designer's CV, and both kind of sit within tech. So I'd say it's more around your industry that you work within in terms of the actual role itself, rather than actually tech and non-tech CVs. I think I mentioned earlier in terms of being creative, I've had quite a few CVs that are TikToks, which is quite fun, or people using creators to help them with their CV, mainly because the areas I recruit for are people that work with creators. So there's some fun ways that you can add to your CV on top of that more traditional style. Guys, from the graduate point of view, what are people looking for in those CVs, do you think?
Yeah, but I wish Tiffany was here to chat to us about that.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. Luckily, we both know her very well, so I'm sure we can fill it. But yeah, just speaking to Tiffany, which is our graduate recruiter, it's mainly about, you know, how involved you were in university, kind of the different things you got involved with. If you had any part-time job, that's great. And obviously, like, just trying to show your interest for the role through your CV. Of course, you're a graduate, so they don't expect you to have work experience if it is for a graduate role. You know, it's more just your enthusiasm about TikTok and your transferable skills that you have into the role. So, for example, and Annabeth can talk more about what she needed to get into marketing science. For me, it was mainly just, you know, how interested I am in TikTok and like communication and project management and organizational skills, transferable skills they were looking for in my role. So that's anything to do with, you know, leading society or running a society event in university, or having my part-time job in my startup company that I was at. Any experience is really relevant when it comes to a graduate role, as long as you can show those transferable skills.
Yeah, I agree. I mentioned this previously, but yeah, like seeing what kind of I attended a hackathon, for example. So my master's was in data science, so I kind of started connecting with people within that kind of field and industry, and then by doing that I saw like different events pop up on LinkedIn. So then I attended one of the events, took part in a hackathon, which was all to do with like music, which is like my bag anyway. So yeah, why not? And yeah, that was a great experience. It's something that I was able to speak to. And it actually turned out that my manager had actually attended that event as well. So in the interview, we had something to like talk about beyond my CV, which was great. So yeah, just really putting yourself out there and seeing what is out there for your industry, what kind of free events you can attend is a good way to kind of add more to your application.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer for another question here as well. For non-tech backgrounds, is there a way for our CV to stand out? Try to find a similar skills between the roles. I think it completely depends on the role of whether they actually require a tech background for that particular position. But I think, as Annabeth said, if you want to get into tech and you don't have any prior experience going to events, being proactive and getting to know people, networking and finding people that could introduce you to other people or to particular roles, because it's not always down to the experience. You know, some people don't necessarily have the cookie cutter experience, but they would be a great fit for the team and the role and TikTok and ByteDance generally. Hopefully we've answered the non-tech questions. There's a question around applying for roles where you don't meet all of the criteria. I don't know about you guys, but I would always recommend applying for jobs where you don't meet all of the criteria, because no one ever meets all of the criteria. Usually if you do, you're probably too qualified for the role. So I'd say ignore the criteria. I'm not sure I should say that, but if you think you've got some skills that would fit the role, apply. The worst that can happen is you'll get rejected, and that's, you know, it's fine. Keep applying, and it could be that we find a role that will match your skill set.
Yeah, I most definitely agree on that, Roberta. For me as well, like, I'm in advertising operations. I had no prior experience in digital marketing or advertising or anything like that. Didn't know how to upload ads or anything to do with the role, you know, and I just kind of showed my enthusiasm and researched into it. And I think as well, you hear at TikTok, so many people are in TikTok and their role before was completely different from what they were doing. And I think if they didn't just take the plunge and, you know, applied, then they wouldn't be here in this great role. I think as well, it's having those transferable skills and just not having the imposter syndrome. If you feel like the job is good for you, then definitely just apply. Like, as Roberta said, all they can say is no.
Yeah, fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Someone's asked to go through the do's and don'ts for a CV again. I won't share my screen because I'm scared that something will happen, but I'll just go through them. So some do's: give concise overview of your main responsibilities and key achievements. We've gone over that. Just make sure you can see your responsibilities and your skill set very clearly. So putting things in bold, drawing attention to the things that in the job description it says what whoever you're applying for, says they're looking for. Tailor your CV to the role. Again, keywords. Using a template is fine. You can find templates online. They are usually free. I wouldn't say pay for one. And they're very easy to use and can be very helpful to actually telling you what to put and where. And then use data in your CV. If you are in a role that measures anything, a measurable role, do put in targets or anything like that you've overachieved. And then don'ts. I think I don't know if I was actually presenting to anyone at this point, but I would personally say don't pay for someone to write your CV, because, as I say, there's lots of templates online, and you know your experience better than anyone else, so you're the best fitted to write it down. And then a long list of interests. And this is not to not talk about your passions. Definitely do that, because that will be very interesting. It's just having a list of writing, reading, swimming, with no kind of nothing to go by over that. So photos, feel free to have photos, but just keep them PG. Spelling mistakes and grammar, make sure it's all correct. And we have gone over the 2 pages. So hopefully that's helpful. I don't know if there's anything you guys feel that you've either seen in CV or you guys have done in the past that you would or wouldn't do again.
I was on mute, but yeah, I think we were saying before in the previous session, I think it definitely depends on your role and who you are as a person. I don't know what you've seen, Roberta. I know you must see like loads of creative CVs, but I was saying how one of my friends, she applied to TikTok and she got in, she changed her CV into like a For You page. That was kind of like a really nice creative thing that she did, tailored to the brand and to the product, and that was really, I think, exciting to see, and Tiffany love to see that. So I think it's just finding a way to stand out, and obviously TikTok CVs as well. We mentioned that, and how people are starting to incorporate making TikToks into a CV, and I think, I don't know how you feel about that, Roberta, as a recruiter, but do you like seeing a TikTok CV, and what do you think about it? Because before we were talking about it, but I guess we never got a recruiter's opinion.
Yeah, it completely depends. What you want to see is what they do currently and how they do it. And if they can get that across in like a TikTok or in a creative CV, then yeah, it's great, because that's very impressive to be able to do that. But sometimes you can get very creative CVs that don't say very much, and you look at it and you still don't know what they do. So as long as you can get the message across, be as creative as possible. It's sometimes nice to see a different CV, and you know, it does set you aside if you can get that across. But it is, I think, probably a difficult thing to do. Just looking at questions. What would you advise to someone who's trying to make a career change to a field they have no experience? How would you approach the job search process? I'd say don't be afraid of just applying for roles. Also, tailor your CV. Make sure that you have looked at the job description and pulled out the skills that you do have and put them in your CV to highlight those areas that match the job description. So, and just go out there and apply. There was another question as well around applying for a lot of jobs in TikTok within a short period of time. Just to answer that question quickly, I would say apply for whatever jobs you want. Just try to make them relevant. So if I can see that someone has applied for a software engineer and also a legal counsel, it kind of is a bit of a red flag. So just try to make sure that your CV is appropriate for the job, and try to narrow it down to, you know, 5 jobs, so that you're not just applying for everything. Sorry, I've just seen a question that says, would you recommend a LinkedIn or a website instead of a CV? I wouldn't recommend downloading your CV from LinkedIn, because that format tends to be terrible. Just because it's not very nice on the eye. So it's like you're looking at it and you can't really, again, figure out what they do. So I would recommend trying to find a template or a template builder rather than downloading it from LinkedIn. Cool. Is there any questions that you guys wanted to answer from your side? I know they're all very recruitment.
Yeah, most of them are, and I think you've answered most of them.
Yeah, I think we've touched on most of them. But yeah, thanks guys for joining, and sorry for the technical issues. I don't know what you saw and what you didn't see, but hopefully we covered everything you wanted to. I guess, yeah, feel free to get in touch for us to answer any other questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.